Welcome to the United States of America podcast. I am your host, Niti, and we are broadcasting live from the Food Church here on North Carolina. We welcome you to make yourself comfortable as we go over the current state of the world and our nation. If you have missed past episodes, please be sure to take the time to at least watch the first episode to have a proper introduction to our conversations. These conversations are not otherwise happening in any sequential order. Please be aware that we expect you to behave with honor in our comment section. We are a people at peace, and we have declared peace to all nations around the world. This is not a marketing or a sales podcast, and we are not sovereign citizens. Sovereign citizen is an oxymoron, and if you say that you're a sovereign citizen, then you are a moron. A sovereign is a free and honorable living man or woman who operates under God's law or natural law and who honors themselves and others in peace. One definition for the word citizen is slave, but there are different kinds of citizens. Putting those two words together is an oxymoron. We also do not promote or condone TikTok, Facebook, or any other social media games to test the system or to impose your beliefs on society at large. This is not a marketing and promotional channel. We are shining a light on knowledge that is being hidden from you. We are sharing the truth about your birthright and your inheritance. We are interested in helping you reclaim your birthright and your inheritance. We are not sitting in judgment of you. This information is a beacon of light for you to use when you choose to seek it. We have marshals at arms that are designated as moderators who are assisting in the comment section. Please be kind with your words, and if you diminish others, you will be put in a timeout or deleted or blocked as deemed necessary. If you have questions, please put them in all caps and only enter them once per show. I am joined on air with our North Carolina Marshal at Arms, Cynthia Pinkston, and now I am proud to introduce you to Justice Anna Maria, who is joining us live from Alaska today. Good morning, Anna.
Morning, Niti.
Hello, sunshine.
Cynthia is shining bright. So this morning, I would like to, I'd like to make some decrees, Anna. You inspired me yesterday with the way that you guys started the show. So I would really like for everyone out in the world to repeat after me. I decree this 9th day of April that we will no longer allow this immorality to continue. I decree this 9th day of April that we will no longer allow those devils to censor us and hold their boots on our throats. I decree this 9th day of April that those who have talent, those who have wisdom, those who have experience, those who are called by their higher power will stand, and they will rise today. I decree this 9th day of April that they will find their respective American state assemblies and their rightful place today. I decree this 9th day of April that we declared Americans will raise our land jurisdiction courts before the end of this year. I decree this 9th day of April that Anna's work will fully come to fruition before the end of this year. I call 13 witnesses to agree with me this 9th day of April. I'd like for you to spam our chat with your agreement now. So, Anna, I know that we cannot really, we can't notice our state of state with marching orders until we are fully seated and have our, government shingle hanging up. But do you encourage that we notice them as members of our International Business Assembly individually with our objections for things like smart meters, fluoridation, Gwen towers that we want removed, like no more geoengineering, etc. The way that Cal Washington and his Empower movement are doing? Wouldn't we as Americans have more authority to make them listen than those who are undeclared? Or could you speak to that a little bit this morning?
Okay, first and foremost, really truly wrap your head around the fact that when you're talking to, say, the state of North Carolina legislature, you're talking to the board of directors of a service corporation that's in the business of providing essential government services. So why wouldn't you tell them what you think? Now, they are not really operating as a legitimate government at all. Legitimate governments are not incorporated to foreign powers. All right? So they're basically standing in as successors to contract, and they're incorporated, so they lost all of the natural powers and immunities of a government, and they are basically like, oh, Kaiser Permanente, or a big bank, or a big airline or transportation company. They've got their own niche, their own thing of providing governmental services, but they're really no different, or having any more mystique or power or nature than any other giant corporation like Exxon or General Motors, or IBM or Raytheon. They're just a gigantic corporation, and that's their board of directors. So, if you want to, as North Carolinians, who are the actual government, uh, take their legislature to task as a group on group, they don't have the authority, you do. And, you're now in General Assembly, so you have a voice to speak, even if you're not totally set up yet to do all of the functions that you need to do. So, yes, your General Assembly can send the state of North Carolina legislature a letter, and you can circulate that copy to all members, and you can tell them, what are you going to do about, all of this pollution of our land? What are you going to do about all these foreigners coming in here and thinking that they're buying land that they have no right to buy? They're basically just using a purloined title. All these different issues can be brought up to these people, and they need to start thinking about it. What about the fact that you have a usufructuary duty as a corporation to pay for the expenses of all your franchises that you created for yourselves?
Mm.
And
so you're saying that we can do that in a systemic one letter from on behalf of the assembly prior to being seated,
or however many letters, new topics come up. We
Sure.
don't know how long it's going to take each state to get fully seated.
So, but it's okay for International Business Assembly, because I'm sitting on that pillar. It's okay for me to be sending them notices that our General Assembly is interested in us sharing. If they say, yes, we want to say this, yes, we want to say this, then I can do that on behalf of North Carolinians. And it's not, I just don't want to do anything to cause any harm. And that's the reason I'm asking the question.
Well, you're not you're in a position of moral and lawful right. Okay.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that they respect morality or law.
Right.
Okay. What they will respect is that under law merchant and maritime commercial law, they're liable.
Got it.
And so they, as a board of directors, have certain responsibilities that they've been evading by pretending that everyone just voluntarily decided to be a British territorial. And so they have all these schemes to deny you remedy that's due to you. And I think that the more people who organize, the more people who bring these issues forward, then the more convinced they will be that, hey guys, we're at the end of the rope here. We're not going to be able to continue using their assets, borrowing against their assets, and
Mm,
spending their collateral,
mm,
spending their credit without taking care of them.
mm. So, would you suggest that anyone who's in our who is declared on North Carolina, if we're putting this package together, so to speak, that it would be more powerful for all of them to share their, like I was actually thinking about Anna, your that silver bullet thing that I used for my ticket that I had noticed, the DMV with, and if we were to all individually do that on these various objections that we have for the power lines that they're putting up that are insane, all these things that they're doing, the Gwen towers and all of those things that we want them to take down. If we put together a package and we present it, it's more powerful with all of their individual letters or with just the International Business Assembly speaking on behalf of the General Assembly.
Well, have you elected a speaker for the General Assembly?
No, not for the General Assembly. I mean, I'm just on the international pillar.
Okay, well, actually, at this point, the appropriate thing is to send a letter from the General Assembly and send it under the signature of the elected Assembly chairman.
Okay.
Um,
So basically, if we do it on behalf of the assembly, we have to have a chairman.
well, you should. I mean, if you're organized, that's one of the main offices to fill, and they are supposed to act as the spokesperson.
Mm-hmm.
And the General Assembly, although it's normally the International Business Committee that would be dealing with state of state at the present time, because the state of state is foreign, right?
Right.
The General Assembly has the right to speak directly to the state of state legislature also. So I think that the soil jurisdiction is the supreme authority when it comes to everything within the state. So speaking as a General Assembly is actually as powerful or possibly more powerful because it combines both the general membership of the ASNs and the members of the International Business Committee. But yeah, you can start talking to the members of the state of state legislature, and you can let them all know. The governor should know, the state of state secretary of state should know, or whatever office is customary in your state to fill that office. So far, the Brits have been trying to avoid the inexorable revelation of truths about what complete and utter criminals they've been here. But it isn't going to help them. I mean, the word is out, and people everywhere are thinking about how their government was basically usurped upon by these British bounders, and how they created their own little Raj system within all these other countries. And it's really not going down well because people can directly observe. Once somebody raises their hand and says, look, then all of a sudden everybody starts looking and going, oh, 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 oh. And
Yeah.
so that's happening all over the world. It's not
Right.
just here.
No.
And, the system that they imposed is being not only discovered, but it's being understood. Suddenly all these people are thinking, oh, that's what civil rights means. That's how than human rights. That's how it's different than natural and unalienable rights, right? So,
that they're limited. So then when we write these, then if we, what we've learned, right? I mean, I'm just confirming that if we send it to the Secretary of State, then their system is, she knows who to notify for all the things and it goes to all the correct people. Isn't that right?
that's supposed to be the way it works. We don't know for sure.
Oh, okay.
state. It's supposed to work that way. They're supposed to have a national alert system through the United States Secretary of State. And
Right.
instead, what they do is they kind of pick and choose, and it's just really irritating, that they are so incompetent and have obstructed our um, our access to remedies that were used to legalize actions that are otherwise crimes. And when you set up a system like that where you're legalizing a crime by providing exemptions and that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing, and then you fail to provide access to those exemptions, you've essentially lost the benefit of legalization.
Huh. So that's fascinating that you're saying that. I think that it was really interesting that when Cal did that in Canada, he had to go all the way to the Queen for a remedy because the Canadian government literally had no way to remedy. They didn't have the power to remedy. Do you think that's the situation here?
Absolutely.
Mm,
It's the same everywhere. Where uh, I think, in the former Commonwealth, it's a little bit worse because you're dealing with the Queen or the
hmm
King at this point, and you're dealing with them in a different way.
Right.
Uh, but we have a better basis for claiming our exemptions. We have a stronger means to object because we were never actually British citizens anyway.
This is what I wanted you to talk more about, Anna, because what is the big deal about us being able to do that here on America versus, for example, what he did do on Canada?
Well, Canadians have always been under British occupation, basically, because they were part of the Commonwealth, and really switching from Commonwealth to territorial government is just a matter of switching from peacetime to wartime. So that for them in the 1960s, when they had this big announcement about the Commonwealth shutting down and blah, 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 trying to make it look like Britain wasn't actually a colonialist villain, they basically just switched from being a peacetime Commonwealth into a wartime territorial government, which was even worse. So, while creating this propaganda narrative about how Britain was turning its back on its colonialist path, and how they were going to make it right and all this other BS, they actually just switched from a peaceful peacetime Commonwealth government to being a British territorial military government.
I hope you folks out there are paying attention. I hope you're paying attention. And okay, so we have many, many questions. We don't want to not get to those today, but thank you, Anna, for that lesson this morning. And I think for the next several weeks, we want to start the way we did today. What did you think of that, Anna?
I thought it took for frickin' ever.
Okay.
I mean, listening to your voice drone on for 5 minutes at the beginning is kind of a downer.
Sorry.
And, I think that we could get to it a lot quicker and without a whole lot of speechifying. Because
Okay.
people, it's one thing to kind of set the stage and tell people what's expected in terms of their participation. But, all this other stuff about, we are this and we are that, they'll see what we are just by listening in.
No, I just wanted us to speak it out into the world. I think we want to be seated. That's all. That's all I wanted to do.
Sure. Well, my personal opinion, we could do with a shorter intro. That's just my opinion. And day before yesterday, we had this no out. Let's call it a no out. You know, this is what we're done with. We kind of focused in on no more lies, no more narratives, no more, force feeding, no more nanny state, and no more irresponsibility on our part. We're going to step up. All these things that we basically just said no to. Okay, and I think that's a good thing because some people were saying, "Oh, but that's so negative. We should be focusing on what we do want and what's positive." Well, that's true, but the moment that you say what you don't want, you get a better, clearer vision of what you do want, and that then prompts you to
That's
realize
right.
what you have to do to get there.
Sure.
For example, you say no more lies. Well, okay, so that means I have to tell the truth. Yeah, right. For everything there is an opposite, and when you do the no, you make it clear that this is not acceptable, that you object to it, that you don't want it, right? And then that then brings forward the positive of what you do want. If you're sick of the warmongering and the expense of constant war, and you say no more war, well, that forces you to concentrate on peace. It brings forward what you do want at the same time that you're saying what you don't want. And I think it's a very valid exercise for us to focus on what we don't want so that then we can focus more clearly on what we do want.
All right, first question. So we've got some people having problems filling out tax forms such as a W-4 when writing in the social security number without the dashes and putting it in the brackets. Does that remove it from the document, or what should they do?
Well, putting it within brackets removes it from the document, technically. Um, and writing it without the dashes tells them that, yeah, hey, put it in the AutoTrust account. Whether they know that and whether they do that is another whole different story. What we found out is that the people that keep the positive side of the ledger and people who keep the negative side of the ledger are often housed in the same exact building, but they never talk to each other. So they're unaware of the existence of the other accounting. So there are those that take care of the credit side of the ledger, and there are those who take care of the debt side of the ledger, and never the twain shall meet. And that's why there's no accountability in terms of erasing the debt. If they brought both sides of the ledger together, it would cancel everything out. And it would reduce all of the national debt. It would reduce all of the money that was paid as interest on the national debt. And suddenly the banks would be owing us a tremendous amount of money that was paid out fraudulently under fraudulent circumstances as interest on a national debt that didn't in fact exist.
All right, ready for the next question. This one's a doozy. So, is it acceptable for our assemblies using digital recording secretaries, digital witnesses, and digital signatures on digital documents, or should we have a wet ink thumb, a wet ink signature, and hard copy documents?
Hard copy. We're not corporations. We're physical. We're the jurisdiction of substance. And so we do everything in hard copy, and then if we take copies onto a digital format for our records, well, that's fine. But there's always a non-digital copy of everything, and both the person who is signing up, making the record, and the person that is keeping the record for the assembly have a copy.
Warning recording secretaries, you better have a wedding signature and you better have real documents.
Right.
That's important.
How do
It
they
is.
put the seal on it if they don't? I don't understand how this is happening.
Well, it's all digital. There's some just trying digital. So we've set the record straight on that. Now, here's another question. I've been looking into the address of the District Court of the United States, but only find the address for the little t United States District Court. Do we use the address but invoke the District Court of the United States just by
Right.
addressing this to the correct court?
Technically, there are 7 U.S. Supreme Courts, and they all reside in the same building.
So
Same thing with the district courts. The district courts have different forms of district court, but they all typically reside in the same building.
all right.
So it's sort of like what we do with the notary public. If you get the correct name of the court, then it's up to them to sort it out and figure out where it goes.
Thank you. Okay, here's one of those. Another one. We have 3 platforms running, and I seem to get the one platform. So we know how bad you hate lying. It says on last Saturday's coordinator call, there was incorrect information and actual lies told on the Continental Marshals and the PKTF by a couple of the coordinators in attendance. How do we fix this?
I was already informed of this, and I was sent a copy of the meeting minutes, the recording. However, I don't have time to sit and listen to a 3-hour-long meeting. You know, I just, if I would listen to all the different meetings that are going on all over this country all the time, there would be no time to do anything else. And I simply don't have the time to sit and grind through 3 hours of listening to a meeting that took place this past weekend. So what needs to happen is somebody needs to do a transcript, or somebody needs to make the effort to, clip out the parts that are offensive, and we go from there. I think that there is a certain amount of circling the wagons going on among the coordinators who are feeling the pressure of other people examining their actions, and they don't want to be held responsible. And so it bothers them to think that, their actions against individual members of the assembly that they're trying to build are brought forward, and that the PKTF and the marshals hear about this stuff. And by the way, so do I. And they're sort of trying to kill the messengers. They're trying to, set up this outrage against the PKTF and the Continental Marshals, and against the Federation and anybody who's going to come in there and straighten them out. And, the problem is that just because you're a coordinator doesn't make you God. And you don't get to tell people that they can't, as we had in Michigan, tell people that they can't ever be a member of the assembly. And, just crazy stuff, squelching people's right to free speech, very autocratic, doctrinaire. We set up this plan, and everybody has to follow it or else. And that just doesn't work. And people try to do these kinds of things in an arbitrary way because they're still clutching on to, I think it's because they're afraid, frankly, and they're clutching on to the only structure they know, which is the very authoritarian structure that they grew up in. And so we have all of these situations where coordinators give in to the temptation to act as autocrats. And in part, they're being pushed into doing that by the people themselves who come through the door and expect it. Okay? And so when you've got people demanding that you act as an autocrat, and that's the only system that you and they know, What happens too often is that it becomes an autocratic system, and then people walk through the door and it's no different than the old system. And it's because the people in it haven't changed their minds. The people haven't really gotten it wrapped around their heads that, oh, this is different and we do it differently. And this is how we do it. And so we have constant problems as a result. And there are some coordinators who aren't doing it right. Look at Dan Oxier down in Missouri, complete and utter farce, where they weren't doing the paperwork and they didn't think they needed to do the paperwork. They weren't doing the paperwork correctly. They were undermining the legal standing of their entire assembly and all the effort they put into it. But they were just toddling along, thinking that they were just fine. And this is, unfortunately, it's part and parcel of the situation that we are starting this the restoration without people that were actually there in the first place to guide us and tell us, oh, well, this is how we do this. We have to, we basically rely on historical record and on things that, are self-evident. But we have a lot of problem with a lot of the coordinators. And the answer to it is always to get more coordinators and get more people with their heads wrapped around this and educated and up to speed so that we don't have the problem and so that they self-regulate. Now, we've managed that in numerous states, but we still are having problems. And, unfortunately, it's a matter of education. It's a matter of organization. It's a matter of people finding ways to find their voice and working together.
Well, in light of what we secretly know about Ohio, getting the first part, getting past Harold Hines, which he was impressed. I don't know what that is. But now they're down to the Anna inspection. And if we can get a state over the fence and standing, the rest of us will blaze a trail. I mean, we're coming right behind them. So we're doing what we can. But what information you're putting out on the coordinators training, even the international business, is so important to all of us. It's not just important to those new trainers, new trainees who's going to be stepping into their state and saying, come on, boys, let's go. It's important to all of us. I learned something every week. Another thing that I got here was somebody saying, please explain to Anna how much we appreciate that coordinator training, because it is a eye-opening experience that gives us meat, not just milk, but meat to stand on to say, where do we go? How do we do this? So I must have got 50 of those just saying, make sure and tell Anna how much we appreciate, how much longer will coordinator training going, and those graduates that will come out and be placed in the assemblies to now try and help their assemblies go forth. Will you start a new training? I yield.
Well, it has been so popular, and it's been popular to a wider range of people than I expected. More people have attended the coordinator training than I expected. And that's actually good, because whether or not they actually step up and become coordinators, they're getting the information. And that helps them keep their coordinators on the straight and narrow.
It also helps them support the coordinator in their committee work that they're doing. And I have received so many thank yous from people around the world. Most of the notes I'm getting are global. They're, everywhere around the world. They're thanking you and praising you and so appreciative of that opportunity to hear the replays even, because their time differences or whatever. So,
well, and people around the world are facing many challenges.
Yeah.
Some of them are in a better position than others, but certainly the 17 um, nations of Western Europe that were occupied during World War II, and Japan and South Korea, and various nations in the Mideast and Africa that have been affected by this
Hmm.
are, in the same boat and having to come to grips with the same things.
Well, the lessons that you're teaching, people are hearing it and they are so appreciative. So Paula's asking, how do we submit our assembly vote on the two laws? It's our understanding that there's been a lot of people who are not able to get you their votes, Anna.
Well, they can send it to me, but the gathering point has been Terry, and they have a fairly well established methodology for actually keeping the vote, presenting the vote, having it in a tab. If you go on the TASA website and go to the Federal Record tab, you'll see where there's an actual tally of each state and how they voted. And
Mm-hmm.
there's an official copy of what they voted on, so that everybody has that information.
Mm-hmm.
And so the TASA website has been the gathering point, and Terry has been kind of the collector of the information, and the one who, well, she and her folks down in Washington have been the ones responsible for putting that together.
Mm. I think these people are having trouble getting it to you. So, when can we annex a neighboring state because they did not establish their four pillars? Oh,
Well, certainly, I think that this is a premature question.
mm-hmm.
Everybody is still scrabbling around after, putting their assembly together. As far as I am aware and have been made aware, all the 50 states have made it to the level of the General Assembly, and there's no set rule in terms of how long it takes for people to wake up and get organized. Certainly, they're stepping on their own foot if they don't get organized. But, in terms of actually throwing in the towel and saying, well, you didn't organize, bye, that would be a business of, that would require a meeting of the delegations of the surrounding states with the Federation, and there would be an entire process engaged. At which point, I think that recalcitrant state would probably wake up really fast and go, "Oh, gee, you are about to become Greater Kansas," you know. Yes.
Yeah.
So, and especially states like Missouri that are surrounded by 10 other states. Yeah.
Yeah. Angela wants to know, do you know the call sign for the Harmony coin and what chain it is run on and where can we buy it?
That is a global family bank question. I did
Mm.
not get involved in their development of the Harmony coin. I don't like coins. I don't do business with Bitcoin or anything like that.
Can we create an account at Global InstaPay and link it to the global account?
The whole idea is to have both of them linked so that you have a means of doing transactions. Um, the the idea is to have the vendors with their QRC code and your account with your QRC count, and then just link them together. And so it's, as far as global side of it, it's all done. It's the vendors that have to connect.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How can I know that what the constitutions are contracts and I've read them but don't get it?
There are so many people who went through school and who read those constitutions and never realized that they were service contracts.
Mm-hmm.
there must be millions of people in the same boat. How do you know that they're contracts? Well, because you've got to have two parties in order to do anything, okay? There has to be somebody who's paying the bill and there's somebody who's providing the service. And the only thing tricky or different about the federal constitutions is that they additionally create the service provider and define the roles of the service providers. That is the only thing that keeps people from seeing that, oh, hey, we contracted to receive these services known as enumerated powers, and we delegated the power to perform those services to this organization that was set up using this Constitution as the basis. So you see, the tricky thing about the federal constitutions is that instead of just flat out contracting with ABC Corporation to provide mail service, for example, they contracted with an organization that they defined and set up. But otherwise, you can see that the enumerated powers are actually attached to enumerated services that these entities provide, and that the states are on the hook to pay them in gold or silver.
I know that on Friday night, Dave Feaster on the Marshals at Arms call went through the 19 enumerated services, broke them down, gave additional where these other things came in and which one of the 19. It was so off the charts fabulous.
Well, send it to me. I'll make it go viral. I'll put it out and everybody can enjoy it.
Yeah, Dave Feaster did that. Let me see if we can get him to get that to you. I yield.
My family is traced directly to 1640. Is there anything I do that would be different than others? I don't know that. I guess that means that he thinks he doesn't have a birth certificate, Anna. I don't really know.
No. You know, some of us arrived here earlier than others. Jim's family got here in 1608, long before the Revolution. But no, there's really nothing different. It's just that you have a provenance that is longer and stronger than other people who just arrived by the boat in 1930, or 1980.
Are there any updates on the GFG process for minor accounts?
Basically, the minors are now being added to the accounts as beneficiaries of the parents.
Okay.
And that is, the GFG process. The LRO actually allows you to set up an account for each minor child so that they can have an ID card. I'm not sure what's going to happen with the Global Family International Land Recording and Publishing System, if they're going to open up and have that same capability for minor children for the international side of it. I would suspect that the answer is probably yes, but they haven't gotten to that point yet.
Got it. Are court of records established on the state level, or does there need to be one per county?
A court of record can function in any jurisdiction, and it could be in a county and use county records, or it could be at a state level and use state records. Actually, any of these courts of records can use public records of any kind to establish the facts. The big difference is that our courts of record can consider the facts and the law, and the maritime and admiralty courts can't.
Mm-hmm.
So our court of record findings have more strength, more validity, because they are based on fact.
Hmm. Afraid to declare my status because my wife has government clearance. They don't want her to lose her job.
Well, when one spouse declares and the other one doesn't, it sets up a certain it's a problem because they're equal partners in a marriage, right? And they're unequally yoked at that point because one is free and one is indentured or enslaved, or both.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's sort of like the Lord of the Manor marrying a scullery maid, and the scullery maid keeps her job, and it makes
That
a
is
lot
good.
of problems for a lot of people.
Well, not just that, if they own property, one is free
Right.
and one is not. One's paying taxes, one is not. One's standing on the land and one's on the water.
Well, one can't own property while one can. That's
You
really.
can't even throw a life jacket.
Right.
You can't pull them onto the land until they won't stop.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
I mean,
it's hell to be married to a sailor.
do we know when the GFG Bank will have the user agreement available online to review and accept?
I'm not aware that they have or were contemplating a user agreement.
Right. Is this person even American? I'm not really sure. We don't do all these contracts and stuff, Anna, right? Like, I don't know.
Right. We operate under a very simple law, and the simpler the better. It seems that people can't even get it straight that they're not supposed to kill each other. So, having 2,000-page contracts really doesn't make any sense.
How many folks have become state nationals or in other countries? Oh.
I really don't know off the top of my head. Many thousands, certainly, but I don't keep a record of that sort of thing, like a running tally. In our world, I should say, numbers don't matter. It's like an inheritance. It doesn't matter if there are 16 kids in the family or only one. As long as there's an inheritor, there's an inheritor. And so, the other guys are always worried about numbers. The British territorial democracy is always worried about getting numbers and having to have the majority and all that kind of stuff. We don't need that because each individual is individually empowered in our government and in our system of things. And so it isn't a numbers game for us.
Right. Lisa wants to know where she can get proper language for adopted children on the baby deed. She did not witness their birth.
Well, you don't have to directly witness their birth. You can adapt the it's a baby record now. It's not a baby deed because we left the C behind, right? And the people that know these children, the aunties, the older siblings, the grandparents, all the people who know these children are the ones who need to witness for them. Even school administrators or people that have had them. Oh yeah, we've had this kid in school here for 7 years. I can witness the fact, who they are, and we have the record of their birth here at the school. And there are a lot of different people around. A family priest or pastor could serve as a witness. A family doctor could serve as a witness. I actually had a doctor verify my life, so that there's no question that I'm alive and I'm who I am.
So you're not an AI, right?
Right. I'm not an AI. And but here's the thing. In the foreign system, a doctor outranks an attorney in their order of titles. And so when a doctor signs a statement affirming that a child has waived their American estate, no attorney has the right to object to the witness of a superior officer. But by the same terms, when that same level of superior officer comes through and says, "Oh, wait a minute, Anna Maria is alive. I have met her, and I have proof, and she's not waiving her estate." The original order is countermanded, you see.
So, and I have a add-on to this question then. So you just mentioned that it's a baby record, not a baby deed. So those of us who did baby deeds, should we change the language on our refile those or re-record them?
No, not if you did it as part of your initial process. You know, if you were doing it with your whole family was out at sea. So, you know,
right.
Then you're coming back to the land. But it's a baby record when you're on the land. You know?
Oh, so I think that she's had these kids already.
Right.
And so would she do it the way we did then on a baby deed because we all came in together?
Well, if she's standing on the land, then she can do it as a record. See, once you go,
yeah,
it's just like standing on the deck of a boat and standing on the land. You know.
Yeah. So I think the bigger question was within that document, is there some different language because she adopted them versus birthing them?
Yes, you can change it to, you know, you can amend the record in the way that makes it honest for you. It's not set in cement.
Making it honest for yourself, Lisa. I think those are some of the answers that were being sought.
Side question on that. What if you're not legally married? Can you share a deed on a house?
Then it's just a business transaction. It's a business contract between you and your partner. And it's the same as if you were in business together. And you can draw up an agreement that stipulates how you got into the agreement and that stipulates how you got out of the agreement. You can even do that with your estate. You know, say that you're living with your second cousin because that's just how life worked out for you. You're not married to them, but they are your beneficiary for your estate when you die. You just have a contract between the two of you that stipulates the terms of how they inherit.
Anna, here's another question. You know, a lot of people are American state nationals that we deal with, and they filed taxes because they didn't get their notices out.
Well, you know, I guess if you want to lose several $1,000s because you didn't get your notice out, then it's on you, isn't it?
Okay, I just wanted to say, because some of them are twixt in between, and they're like, I'm an American, but I never got my notices out. Well, how many years has it been?
Well, if you never got your notices out, then they have no reason not to expect you to act as a taxpayer. By the way, we now have the exact proof that a taxpayer is an employee of the IRS.
Wow.
Are you sharing that with us in an article?
Okay. Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm kind of putting together a cheat sheet of information for people. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. A taxpayer is literally an employee of the IRS. And when the IRS goes after a taxpayer, it's with the presumption that you're not doing your job and that you may have embezzled funds. See, you're supposed to be collecting taxes for the Queen. And if you don't collect taxes, then obviously you're not doing your job.
I think the answer to this question, Anna, is when the bank is ready for us to be able to even manage it, because they want to know when can they deposit FRNs.
The vault is open. The vault has been open for months. And there's instructions at the Global Family Bank website that shows you about the vault. So yeah, you can put money in there anytime you want.
For the vault, but not to exchange them for AFD.
You have to put them in the vault in order to exchange them for AFD. That's the reason there's a vault. If you're going to go one way, if you're going to take the AFD and translate it into FRNs, well, then there's an exchange rate that's already published, right? Every day the exchange rate comes out. We know how much 1/10 ounce of gold translates into however many FRNs, right? So that's already there. It's already set in cement. It's already dictated by the world markets. All right. So we know the exchange rate of AFD to FRN. But when this whole thing goes down, we don't know what the exchange rate is going to be. I mean,
today it's up. Silver's up. Everything's up.
Right.
Can we do anything with the new tools tab in our GFG account, or do we just wait for the? First of all, shouldn't everybody just be waiting for instructions? Who's got instructions?
Yeah, well, that has to happen. There has to be instructions about how you do different things and how you access your account and how you can match up your QR code. There'll be little videos, like demonstrating, okay, here's me walking into Lowe's and I'm, buying some pipes and plumbing fittings, right? And here's my QR code here on my phone, and there's the QR code machine at Lowe's, and boo.
Mm-hmm.
And
so we're waiting for instructions, friends. We're waiting.
We'll be doing those little videos to help everybody see.
What happens if a state gets absorbed, annexed due to lack of participants?
Well, instead of a Nevadan, you'll be a Californian.
Exactly.
But I would kind of worry about that if I were you out there in the boondocks. I'd be thinking that maybe I needed to get my friends and neighbors involved here because, there are two sets of ideas going on out there. There are a bunch of people that are very small-minded and greedy and stupid, my personal opinion, who think that by keeping the number of people small, they're going to inherit more and they're going to be the rulers of the state.
Oh.
Okay.
Hello, friends. That is insanity. Okay. We need to, Anna said this is a rescue mission. Also, if you really want to operate your state, you can't do it without everybody working together.
Right. So actually, whereas a very small number of people can inherit, it would not be advisable for them to try it.
Also, okay, let's just say you're the few people that inherit it, Anna, and then when you're gone, what? You don't care what happens with the state after that? Y'all, let's be bigger. Can we just be bigger? This is really petty.
And think about it in terms of there's safety and security in numbers. When you have 1 million people who are aware that they're Americans and standing up as Americans, then you don't have to worry about the de facto government anymore. You can tell the de facto government what to do, and they don't have much choice. So that's where the numbers game actually comes into view, where, the more people who are on the land and soil, the better for your own safety and for your own security. You need to get as many people involved as possible.
Can I just say something? If you do not care about others, if you don't care about everyone, that means that you think that it's fine for some people to be enslaved and not just you. If you allow slavery, that means you could one day be enslaved again or your progeny. Are y'all paying attention to what Anna even says?
Question.
Yes.
So if a 928 and a 928 want to get married, Can they do this if they have no justice on their state? Sure, call Anna. I'm sorry.
Look, marriage is a private contract. It's between a man and a woman. And the purpose of making a marriage record is to make that private contract publicly cognizable so that other people know you're married. Okay? There's no mystique, there's nothing magical about it other than the fact that you have made this commitment with the intention of it lasting a lifetime and being the basis of a family and resulting in a shared life in which you acquire property, and at the end of your lives you give it to the surviving partner so that they are secure for the rest of their days. And this is our social compact all across the world, where people take care of each other and make commitments to each other and take their commitments seriously for building a family. Okay? Otherwise, it's just a business. Otherwise, it's a joint venture, in fact, and that's how the state of state views of marriage. That's why it's completely possible in the state of state to have a gay marriage, because the state just looks at it as a joint venture business partnership. Now, I will say most people, consider marriage to be a form of sacred contract, where it goes deeper and it actually is a contract in the jurisdiction of the air, where your emotions and your energy and your thought are involved in creating the contract. And it's not just a business association, it's an emotional and spiritual coming together, a union, okay? So you have to consider what marriage means to you and what kind of contract is appropriate. And you have to figure out for yourselves how best to express that contract to the community at large. Now, if you do a joint venture with the state of state, all of a sudden you're going to be eligible to insure your partner, right? Because you have an ownership interest in them. It's up to you to decide whether this is about ownership or is this about love.
And on a marriage, let's say they draw them up a little marriage agreement. If they have 2, 3, 4, 5 witnesses, isn't that stronger than any justice or anything else that could validate it?
It's the ancient practice of hand fasting, where the hands are joined, a ribbon is passed around their hands, joining their hands, and the community witnesses it. And all those people sign, their name, their address. They witness this on such and such a date. They take a video of it that expresses the content of the promise to each other. And it is as binding as anything can be. The state of state may not recognize it as a joint venture and probably won't. But then you don't need insurance because you're indemnified. So, it's just a matter of us kind of grabbing the state of state officials and making it clear to them, yes, well, all those assets in the state trust, that belongs to us.
Yep. All right. We have one last question, Anna. I thought this was a good one. My fifth grade son has an American history fair. Any advice on one event he can research to share? Which, in your opinion, is one of the most pivotal and easy to prove?
I think the fact that no Congress ever issued a declaration of war related to the American Civil War would be a very fascinating exercise. You know, um, bring it forward that you did the research, and no, there is none. Um, Another event that you might consider. Oh, how about the surrender of Lee at Appomattox? What was it? It did not result in a peace treaty. So what result was there from the surrender of Lee's army at Appomattox, Virginia? Was it just a truce in the war, or was it an armistice? What's an armistice? Why is there no peace treaty actually ending the war? And instead, there are 3 peace declarations by the president of the corporation. There are all sorts of fascinating things that you could dig into here. Easy to prove. Boy, uh, those are pretty easy to prove. You could go back to Lincoln's issuance of General Order 100 as the very first executive order and look into the Lieber Code, which happened in 1863, in April of 1863. And you can, then ask, well, where's the authority for this? We never had executive orders before this. Why are we suddenly having executive orders now? Well, you'll find that it's because executive orders are peculiar to incorporated entities. And prior to that, we were operating as an unincorporated entity as the American government. And Lincoln, of course, was working for the British Territorial Incorporated version of the United States of America Incorporated. So, where did these executive orders come from? Where's the authority for an executive order? There's nothing anywhere prior to Lincoln. And exactly what is an executive order? You could get into researching any of the different treaties that were established with the American Indians. And what you're going to find is that all of those treaties are sea treaties, even if they discuss the land. And they're sea treaties because they were negotiated and signed by the territorial government. There's one exception. But, we have Native Americans all over the country up in arms because their treaties weren't honored. Well, they signed treaties with pirates.
Arr, mate, walk the plank, walk the plank.
Wow. Well, you did it, Anna. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time today. And I think that we covered
a lot.
Thank you so much. We will see everybody here again next Tuesday.
And Thursday is coordinator training. So
yeah, we'll see you Thursday night with Michelle, and then we'll see you again next week.
Yep. Take care, girls. Talk to you later.